Good morning. What's happening?
Good morning. Morning minutes.
Another day, another dollar. I do have to admit, Lisa Novak I talked with this morning, and she was asking us, she said, how the hell do you guys come up with something every morning to talk about? I don't understand. I said, what do you mean? She goes, how can you think up shit every day to talk about every day? I'm like, oh, I don't know. But we do, eh?
We just do. And it's not like they're short either. I think we're ramping it up. The last 15, 20, 25 minutes. So we do. Maybe it's because we're
for sure.
organized and we map out the next week or two of conversations in advance. Isn't that right, Mark?
Yeah, not. So if anyone who's a regular viewer, our content is very, very well orchestrated. It takes us a very, very long time to get it organized to collate.
I think you could say for every minute we're talking live, it's probably 5 minutes of prep work.
As in, we shit ourselves 3 minutes before we go live and off we go. So let's go.
Yeah. Let's do it. So good morning, Angelo, jumping on. So life as a commercial agent, I suppose this one's probably a little bit directed at me.
You know what? I think it's pretty interesting, dude. I think what clients see and what we see is very different. And I know when we onboard new staff and they watch us in the course of a day, they go, I didn't realize sort of what into it. And I don't want to pat ourselves on the back for 10 minutes, but I just wanted to give everyone a little bit of an insight about what we do. And, particularly you, Michael, as a commercial agent, in the course of a day, what you do and what it actually really involves, because, it's a little bit like one of those things where people know what we get paid for a deal. They know, they watch the transaction happen. And then they go, okay, well, I don't really get how that all happened. So they get the pay thing, but and they get the you opposite them thing, but they don't really get anything else. So I thought it'd be a great session just to have a chat about that. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I think, and I think we'll refer a lot to residential because it's a little bit more commonly known. I think, if you look at the fundamentals of a residential agent, a lot of the time someone is selling or the situation they're moving. And if you look at I think commercial, there's a lot of preparation and a bit, I wouldn't say more, different strategy compared to residential. And there's a lot of moving factors. And I think where I see people do really well, or where I've been able to facilitate a lot of deals and where you've helped a lot, Mark, and what I think we really think outside the box. I think that's where we've had really good success. And I reckon that's where it can be very different, because no day is the same and no deal is the same. You may think it's all similar because you're selling a retail shop and it's easier than residential. It's just an empty shell. But what goes in the background to sort of facilitate that, maybe talk on the buyer side, it's a little bit, if you look at some of the thought patterns a buyer goes through before buying a property, is a big one is council planning, fit out costs, and sort of making the numbers work. I think we can be a little bit more nerdy with numbers as a commercial agent. Is probably a big thing, because
numbers turn you on as a commercial agent.
Yeah, it's Excel spreadsheets, it's numbers. It's
That's a bit weird, yeah, but it's good.
Like some people have RedTube and we have Excel. So that's where it is. And I think a lot of the background is shaping, where a deal can take 6 months, 12 months to get ready for the market, with either shaping those leases in place, because in theory, it's true, you can have the same property commercial and it sell for double the price. And it all comes down to that preparation of potentially you may have instead of selling it vacant, you may spend 6 to 12 months finding a tenant. And then it depends on what rent it is, how that deal is structured, on how that works. Then also what that property can do it's a lot sort of in that angle.
So as a commercial agent, what excites you, or what segments of the market do you look at and you go, shit, that's emerging, that's cool, or that sucks, or that's boring, or what are the exciting points as a commercial agent?
Yeah, so two things I love is either creating a market based on feedback that doesn't really exist, or opening a different investment strategy. So I know Michael Edwards is on now, so he'll know what I'm talking about with the co-work environment that we're building across the road. Now, that was a really, really good client of mine and really savvy. And they sort of like, well, where are we going? Like, we want to go into commercial. What do you recommend? Like, not what's going well now in the market, what's going to go well in 4 years, 5 years? Where's that trend? And because commercial, it's not just sales. Like, you see residential, you just sell units, you just sell houses. They don't even look at leasing. Like, commercial, a big part of seeing where the turns are or the market is through leasing, because it all comes down to the rental income. And we're getting a lot of inquiries for sort of that co-work environment, smaller offices, more flexible market that way. And we trialed and errored with a lot of properties market, like in Brookvale shop tops, like let's market it like there's a desk before it got built. And we noticed that clients really wanted desk space and they were happy with co-work environment or that sort of cafe environment like you've created here. People are happy to work in that open environment. So then the client across the road was like, that's where I felt it was going. If you look at that co-work for that segment, but no one's doing it on the ground floor. No one's doing it with sort of like the disabled access or really high end. So that's what we're building there. So that's a project at 635 Pittwater Road I'm quite passionate about. I don't know. It's
a passion project.
That's a passion. Like, it's because if you look at it, you go, there's no, like, I've already sold the properties, but it's like the leasing, I just see it that long game, and that's what I love. Like, leasing those desks as a commercial agent, that's passion. That's not money. But what I feel we're creating there will just is what people want and people need. And then
it's sort of building community as well, isn't it?
Building community, like, how can you go wrong? If we're putting desks, then I look at it going, well, maybe down the track, he'll buy another one. We do it again. Like, I don't know. That's passion. I love that. And that's up and running. Well, no, that's building. Then there's another one. I love creating that higher value. So we've got a couple buildings in Brookvale where they're under rented. Like, I get that a lot of people have owned buildings for a long time, and sometimes less money, less headache is the objective in some family dynamics.
So the good thing about commercial is you can sort of go not even where the money goes, you can sort of go where the passion goes, and it's not really this. It's almost like no rules. It's business 101, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty loose. There's not really. It's very broad. Like, you could just say I want to stick to retail. So if I look at sort of the last few years, I'm quite fortunate where sort of chop and change. You've got resi, you're off the plan, but then there's also the beginning stages, like, so you can start where you do the development site, then you do the residential, then you're doing industrial. It's very broad and you're always learning, and it's really cool. So I think something
that I admire about the commercial business that I've been exposed to and enjoyed myself personally is the clients. They are funny cats. They are funny cats. These guys and these girls out there, they are, it's an eclectic bunch of people, that's for sure.
Man, like, I look at it these days, I'm learning more from my clients every day than fucking you could almost get in any book. Like, they're savvies. I think, like, I've got that saying, book of Woganomics. I've trademarked it, like, and what that is the book of Woganomics.
That should be the title of today, the book of Woganomics.
Maybe that's another topic we'll go into a little bit more. The book of Woganomics. Yeah. And in the summary, what it is, negotiation's an art form. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Todd. Negotiation's an art form. And if anyone knows Northern Beaches, there's a lot of Greeks, Italians, Serbians in the area. And a lot of commercial is owned by them. And I think anyone going into commercial who are dealing with these clients, if you think you're going to fucking outsmart them or out negotiate them, you got another thing coming. These guys have been negotiating, fine tuning their art, hustling for 50, 60, 80 years. And I was fortunate to realize that. And I sort of trademarked going, that was like, we'll be in a lease deal and you would be like, you're going through points and you would think they didn't say anything here. And then later in a conversation, they bring it up here. And it's just like, that was a great strategy where they're learning, or this is how they do it. And some of the best times I have is like people like Bruno and Theo, just catching up with coffee with them for an hour. And, or like, sometimes you think, is this productive? But you're like, how is that not productive? They know every deal that's happening on the beaches. They know everyone on the beaches, and I love it.
I've noticed some of these guys that you're talking about, their negotiations are like, they're almost like juggling. The one negotiation, there's 8 balls in the air, and when the guy's juggling, he throws one behind his back, and then he like hides 1 or 2 balls, and then brings the 3 or 4 balls back.
Yes.
That's like the negotiation. It's like what, and then they bring out 12 balls, and you're like, whoa, and then they go twice as fast while they're juggling it. Whoa, so
100%.
They're pretty and
they're
that's
savvy.
That's years of juggling balls. Like they're just they're pretty cool cats, eh?
So the best advice I can say to a commercial agent or someone coming into it, or any agent, do not underestimate the buyer or seller. You've always got something to learn, because I'm learning from these guys all the time. But you know what the biggest thing is? They put as much effort or passion into negotiating. So the same client, Mark, you'd know it now. We've got clients who we're negotiating a lease for 10 grand a week, and we're negotiating at the same time a lease for $80 a week. And I tell you what, they fucking hustle just as hard for the $80 a week deal than they do the 10 grand a week. It's not the dollar, it's the process. And
that's incredible. That's incredible.
And that's a mindset there in itself, where I think even my generation, I could be a little bit like, oh, blow money on a coffee. I've got 2 sitting here. It's like, or even as an agent, you go, oh, it's just a unit, or it's just a little deal. There are no little deals. Like, every dollar counts. And that's one thing that keeps refreshing. As much as it's probably good to focus on the big buildings and focus on this, but if you don't do the small stuff right, as an agent, you won't be getting the big building. So, for example,
and look, what we're talking this morning about, guys, is life as a commercial agent. Out of interest, you may see the nice cars and the big deals, but this is sort of 101, just talking about it. But Michael, another thing that you reminded me of just then was you had a guy walk in wanting to lease an office for $300-400 a week.
Oh, yeah, Brookie.
And then the next thing the reason he wants the office is because he's got $20 million worth of units to sell himself.
Yeah.
And then we end up pitching to him saying, "Whoa, don't worry about the office. We will just sell the property for you ourselves."
I was like, it was the Sunday. I remember it so clearly. Like, I just need an office, couple $100 a week, just cheap is good. And I was like, yeah, no problem. What do you need it for? And I remember saying to him, "Oh, to sell some units." I go, "I have an office. Let's use my office. Why do you need an office? I got an office." And I think that's the big thing always as well, is as a commercial agent, you're dealing a lot more with people who are people have businesses, and we've got to be available when they're not working. So most businesses are 9 till 5 or 8 till 6. So they don't necessarily have time to look at property on Monday to Friday. So you've got to be working Saturday, Sunday. We've done it from day one. My whole thing, our whole ethos was, especially my mindset was, if I'm working an extra 2 days, I can just, especially when 6 years ago when I was a lot fresher, it was like, even if I'm not as good, if I'm working the extra days, I'll just fumble my way through it. because you're there. Like, it's almost like you've got to, if you're not there, you're not going to have the opportunity. And that was like that Sunday when he walked in, it was just like, hey, I want a little office. But as Todd said, the little fish are sweet. It's true. And you never know where that progresses from. So I think it's always that juggle between, especially when you pick up that momentum as a commercial agent. Yes, you ideally want to be focusing on a lot of the bigger deals, but it's creating the smaller deals, create the bigger deals. So it's always keeping that working through. I love that you can, regardless of the market, you can make deals happen if you do the work on the ground, and that's generally in the leasing. So if I've got a building, it's under rented, an owner who you pick your owners. You have some owners that will never sell, which is fair enough. It's a great model. But then you have some owners that will buy a building for say $1 million that's generating 80 grand income. But if you can get that to 160 grand income, and then they can sell it for 3 million, they'll buy and flip. So I've got a lot of clients that we're piping that they've bought. We're looking for these tenants to plug into their properties, where the owner may go, I'm happy to pay 100 grand or redo this fit out, or let a childcare get approved in there. Let this happen in the property because I know I'll get that higher rent, and then you can sell it. So regardless, like you'll see in the residential market at the moment, if things are bad, people stop doing deals because a lot of the media. Commercial, if you've got that sort of strategy and those clients in place who will always transact if the money's right, then you can sort of just keep ticking along. And I think like 20 Sydenham Mark, like bought that building with 100 or 15 West Street, perfect example. Bought the building with 80 grand net income, and now we've put it over 220. But that's not a client who was selling, but that's what I love to do. So working that and following that through. And then we've got another building where we're doing that and they will be selling. We've got the anchor tenant. So
you know what always interests me in commercial? In commercial, there's people that go and see the doctor, and there's people that don't go and see the doctor. There's people that go and see the doctor and listen to the doctor and trust the doctor. And it's amazing the results the doctor can actually get. And I just love with commercial that people can bring us something that's broken and we can fix it up. You know what I mean? And we can fix it up. All we need is time and obviously the commitment from the client. But I think that's a beautiful thing about commercial where, you know, and I know property management's like that. Sales is a little bit like that in residential, but definitely commercial. A client can have an under-rented property in chronically bad condition with the side of one tenant, and a good commercial and passionate agent like yourself can say, look, come with me, chop, karate, chop, 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 chop. We do this, we do that, we do floor plans, we get these photos, we rent this one out to this type of person, we rent this out to that type of person. Anyway, a year later, and it does take time and it does take work, you're adding to the bottom line of a person an enormous amount of cash flow, and you're adding an enormous amount to the top line of equity. So for our viewers who don't understand what I'm saying, for every time we can get 10,000 a year out of a property more for a client, we're adding a significant value to the property. So
like 200 grand. That's how big it is. Like, it may sound small, but it's 200 grand. It's 5%. Like, yields at the moment are 5%. So on buildings where I'm releasing them or getting negotiating, getting an increase of 10 grand a year from 50 to 60 grand, I've put 200 grand in their pocket. Like, and as you said, I love that sort of long game, and that I find what I realized with commercial, I will do, let's just say compared to residential, residential agent will do 50 deals in a year with 50 clients.
Yep.
Where I'll do 50 deals in the year, but 5 clients.
Yep.
Because the same client where
that's interesting. Yeah.
That's probably a really, like, because we'll lease them the shop, like they'll buy it from us, we'll lease it, They may sell it, we manage it, they buy something else once I've got the rent. So like a client, like there's probably 10 buy, like a lot of buyers who go, once you get that building at that rent, we're buying again. Just there's another 2-3 mil, find me something to buy. Let's keep rolling it over. So it's just, I really enjoy that, that relationship and rapport with clients. Like if you look at it, like on my phone, like there's favorites list. I've got probably more clients on that. Like let's just say you got do not disturb, and generally it's only family that can get through. As an analogy, I've got just as many clients that are in there, probably more than family, because they're like friends. Like it's a very unique relationship. Like they trust in you buying buying buildings for 1, 2, 10, 20 mil. It's cool. And then you get the rents and you follow through. So I really like that about commercial, which is very different to residential. But I think that's powerful.
It's powerful. And anyone got any questions out there? Mr. Kotsis, Mr. Kentwell, how are you, legend? Kate, how are you? How are you going with comments, Michael? Anyone got any questions for you for a commercial real estate agent, commercial power agent on the Northern Beaches?
Commercial power agent. We've got our commercial awards. When's that? That's in like 3 weeks. Got flying down to Melbourne, finalists against Colliers and CBRE. So two pretty big guns.
So realestate.com.au and realcommercial.com.au, particularly Real Commercial, have voted Novak Commercial as one of the best in the country, top 3 as a matter of fact. So that was a massive thing for us. Hey, Michael, just quickly before we sign out, do you want to talk about for people on Facebook that are watching my background? I thought it was pretty amusing. I had someone say, so guys, if you've noticed behind me, it looks like it's night. And if you're on Facebook watching, and it's I'm actually in the car driving around the Westfields car park for the last hour in circles. But if anyone wants to use this tech, it's Zoom technology, and I can just throw in any background at the back. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put in Greece in the next couple of days.
We've been meaning to do that. We're going to change it up. We're going to change it up.
So it looks like I'm in the Greek Isles rather than a nighttime office behind me. But it's pretty cool tech, eh?
Yeah, we're loving it, and it's been working really, touch wood, really smooth the last sort of couple of weeks. It was learning, and I think it's working good. I'm loving the interaction, educating, sharing what we do. It's quite unique. Real estate, I find real estate's that topic that people want to talk at the barbecue, even if they're not in real estate. So if there's anything we can do, what do you reckon about the commercial Mark, seeing it from the top with your crown? Get it, the crown above you, dickhead. Obviously, obviously, being a residential agent for the majority, and then in the commercial, what do you see? What do you see the difference? What do you enjoy?
Look, I've enjoyed the business, the commercial business, because I've found it's probably a little bit more holistic, a bit more full circle. So we've actually been able to entertain business that we couldn't before, that a lot of our clients were in. So I think it's been and particularly enjoyable for our clients, because they can walk into us and they know we can look after them on, if it's Northern Beaches, we can give really, really good advice in most areas of real estate. So I think now that we're sort of acclaimed in that commercial arena, the first couple of years they'll like people like good luck, but I think because we've been doing so much business the last couple of years, we've been a real go-to for our clients, and I really enjoyed that, dude. Like, I reckon it's having and like you said, I just think those commercial clients are pretty cool cats. They're pretty good business people. They're a lot of them are from the school of Woganomics. We tend to attract, I think, that type of client. So the clients, maybe because we got that to the European background, but a lot of the Italians and the Greeks, the Lebanese and stuff in our area, we're more own a lot of property in commercial, and I think come to us. And you know, a nice thing I found that we're disjointed from old methods. So I think people have actually quite enjoyed that as well, because they don't feel like we've got our hands in their pie. They feel like we're
sort of,
you know, do you know what I mean? Like sometimes when they like, how do I say it politely? Sometimes they just don't want their business to be known by the commercial, the old fashioned commercial operators in the area.
Yeah, and I've had there's two things. I'll get to Todd's question. Todd said what makes a great commercial agent, and I think as what you said before, and as what you're saying then, I think I've been quite fortunate, as I said, like European background, but I think for myself, there's a lot of Italians here, but I wasn't from here. Like there's a lot of history. I think there's been a lot of families around for a long time in the area, and being neutral, being new, a fresh approach has been really great for it and for the clients as well. But it sort of goes on to what Todd's asked, what makes a great commercial agent. I think that was great. And then just having nothing in the old ways, I still think commercial's 20 years behind residential. It was like with the service, the quality, what it does, I think it's got to be like, I think where there's still a lot of room to improve. And I think some of the commercial clients are the top of the sort of, they're very influential. And I think their service, they should be getting better service in the whole industry. So I think with that in top of mind, with how their properties are presented, how available the commercial agent is, and just keeping in mind, just trying to always make more money for your client. I think that's always been our ethos. Like we go to the property, how can we chop it up, make more money? I think that's always been like, when we go to a property market, we're always like, oh, let's make a extra, with approval, let's get an extra studio here. Can we create an extra shop?
We could do that. We could do this.
Like,
yeah.
It's.
I think we could. We better wrap it up as well, because I know. Talking about you, we could talk all day.
That's true. Been a boy at 9-10 months now. You guys do everything different. That's what the industry needs. Love it. Don't stop it. Thank you very much, Glenn. Thank you. And I think that's all it is. If everyone's going left, at the end of the day, what makes a great agent? Anything. If everyone's going left, go right and make it work. That's probably the simplest answer.
And let's sign out on that one. But guys, hope we helped you today. Michael, interesting talking about your job, your life, commercial, and thanks everyone for watching. Any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, we are here for you. Pop it in the comments, and we will. We've had a lot of feedback in the last week where we've covered some great topics.
Yeah.
Anything else to add, champion?
No, all good. Otherwise, I'll get on another tangent.
All right.
All righty. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.